very good evening to you and welcome to the rather windy rooftop of Randlords on the 22nd floor of South Point Towers in Braamfontein, and to a jam-packed show. The Limpopo education debacle refuses to die, with more textbooks found dumped and further calls for accountability. But who exactly profited from the tenders, and will they ever be brought to book? Bongani did some digging.
The Limpopo Textbook saga is still unfolding, but this is just a symptom of an education department in complete meltdown. It was placed under administration in December last year, and Dr. Anis Karodia led the intervention task team for 3 months. Before leaving, he presented a report to the National Council of Provinces.
If you want a lesson on how to destroy a government department, well, look no further than Limpopo Education. The Karodia report recommends the complete removal of the entire top leadership, saying the collapse happened under their watch, that they have no right or moral authority to stay in office.
This top structure of the education department was brought in after the 2009 elections, which saw a change in national and provincial government. Jacob Zuma swept to power, and he in turn appointed Castle Matale as the new Limpopo Premier. And that's when things changed, according to the former head of the education department, Reverend Zor Nabutalo.
New people came into the province. I got a visitor from one of the high offices. It was around June 2009. So the visitor says, I've been sent. The powers that be says, I must ask you if you are approachable. I said, what do you mean? What do they mean approachable? Then she came out very, very openly to me, and then she says, well, they said that they are aware that your contract is coming to an end this year, and they want to make an offer to you to extend your contract by 5 years, but on certain conditions.
Like?
She said to me, if you are going to cooperate in 2 areas. One area is that it is the area of who gets the tenders in the department. If you will cooperate as to who gets the tenders in the department, you have the contract. The second area was who gets the jobs. That's what I was asked. She went on to explain that, she said, you see, I was asked to try and explain to you that in the run-up to Polokwane, there were people who assisted us, some with their monies, and they now, they would want to have their money back.
The run-up to Polokwane refers to the 2007 ANC conference held at the University of Limpopo, which saw the ousting of President Thabo Mbeki. This paved the way for a Zuma presidency.
So I said to this person, look, you are giving me a very simple choice, because I have to choose between my contract and my reputation. And at this stage, I'm choosing my reputation. I said, I don't do tenders. You know, I have worked, for instance, I was the first chairperson of the Provincial Tender Board. And I've always been firm. You know, we have to stick to the rules of the game. And I said, as far as the employment of comrades are concerned, I'm a comrade myself. I have no problem with comrades working for the Department of Education, but they must be equal to the job. That's the bottom line. They must go through the due process. They must be equal to the job, so you can send back the message. So I knew then that the contract, certainly, I've kissed it goodbye. And indeed, there were a number of things which happened between that period and the 30th of September, when I received a letter from the Premier saying that your contract will neither be extended nor renewed.
The new HOD was Benny Boshielo, who served under the new MEC, Dixon Masimola. Within just 2 years, the Department of Education was bankrupt. Karodia's report explains why. A serious dereliction of duty by those at the top has resulted in a free-for-all and lack of administrative jurisdictions. This leadership vacuum means there is complete flouting of rules and regulations, with no oversight of the budget. In short, they've no clue of how to manage a government department.
Just over 1,800 cell phones were issued to departmental officials, and the total cell phone and landline bill comes to about 25 million rand per year. Some individuals were running up cell phone bills of 5,000 rand in 1 month.
But these amounts are minuscule when compared to the hundreds of millions that remain unaccounted for during the 2 years of fiscal abuse.
I would almost describe it as grand theft taking place through the tender system, through re-engineering the way the department works to make it more vulnerable for getting money out and into people's pockets. I think it's a deep problem, and I think it merits a very serious investigation.
Mark Hayward is with Section 27, the NGO that tackle the government over non-delivery of textbooks. He believes the textbook tender is just one of many that was awarded irregularly.
I think what the textbooks thing represents is just an example, possibly, of how you can take a tender that involves hundreds of millions of rands. If you fiddle the award of that tender, then it becomes possible for corrupt people or individuals to skim off tens of millions of rands. And what needs to be looked at is whether a similar thing is happening in relation to, for example, school infrastructure, the building of schools, or whether a similar thing is happening in relation to the school nutrition program.
At this primary school in Venda, the children are eating samp for lunch. Most schools in the area have kitchens like this. The department awarded the primary school nutrition contract at a cost of R2.05 per child per day.
The nutrition tender is very pathetic indeed, because it's a department that was aware that we didn't have money. When companies tendered, their rate per learner was R2, some were R2.02 cents, some were R2.03 cents, some were R2.04. But what the department did was they said all the tenderers who tendered below R2.05, they're disqualified.
Solly Chitangano is the whistleblower who was fired from the department after he brought their corrupt tender practices into the national spotlight.
And by doing that, this tender ended up being given to companies that are very expensive, because previously, the nutrition tender at primary level, we were feeding these learners at R1.95 per learner. But after this new tender, we were feeding them at R2.05 per learner, which was very expensive.
The Karodia report states the bid adjudicating committee is incapable of handling mammoth tenders. They received instructions from influential people outside the committee, including HOD Benny Boshielo, who has since resigned. There was also possible interference by MEC Masemola.
With the mobile classrooms, the tender was extended for 3 months by the bid adjudication committee. But the minutes were fraudulently amended to give it 6 months. And the people who were involved in the amendment of those minutes were the head of department, Mr. Benny Boshielo, and the chairperson of the bid adjudication committee.
These mobile classrooms cost 84,000 Rand each and were delivered to a secondary school where they aren't needed. But this primary school nearby is desperate for more space, with up to 72 children crammed in a classroom. In 2010, the department outsourced its infrastructure management duties to a joint venture led by multinational consultants Oricon. This 3-year contract is worth 95 million Rand.
There were 4 companies that were selected that were regarded as preferred bidders. The highest company was 95 million, and there was a company that quoted around 50 million, another company quoted 36 million, and there was another company that quoted 26 million. But what the head of department and the bid education committee did was to appoint a company that was very expensive.
We believe that our proposal was of such a good quality that the department decided to award the contract to us. But let me explain. There are those that are quoted to have submitted bids of 26 million Rand and 45 million Rand. They were not pricing our proposal. We priced our own proposal.
Ronnie Koza is the head of offices for Oricon in South Africa.
There was nothing in terms of wrongdoing from our side. There was nothing irregular about this contract, and all the documents that we have actually prove that.
Have you paid kickbacks as part of this deal?
As far as I know, we have not, and I'm very confident to date that the Oricon staff have not done it. I'm confident that nobody, as part of the joint ventures, would actually go and pay somebody when they are not the lead party.
The Oricon JV contract is one of many tenders being investigated by Goboto forensic auditors. Several matters have also been handed over to the Special Investigating Unit for further scrutiny.
As part of the intervention, the Special Investigating Unit has been brought in. They're looking at specific individuals who may face disciplinary hearings and possible criminal charges for offences that include gross negligence, unlawful expenditure, and even fraud.
These individuals include current head of department Morabudi Tamaga, the chief financial officer Martin Mashaba, and other senior managers.
You talk about the need for interventions, but we've already seen from these reports individuals being named, and yet many of them, if not all of them, are still in their positions.
You know, 8 months into the year, 8 months with textbooks still missing in many schools, and you still have MEC Masemola sitting in his seat, you still have the head of department sitting in their seat. You know, even on the surface, they've failed at their job. It's been necessary for the national department to intervene because they haven't been able to get textbooks to school, because they haven't been able to supply schools with what's known as their norms and standards money. There's been a breakdown in basic functions. And again, for me, it points to the collapse of the notion of political accountability. Anybody who can't do their constitutionally mandated responsibility should not hold that responsibility for a minute longer than necessary.
The Minister of Basic Education, Angie Motshekga, has come under fire with many calls for her resignation over the near collapse of the department in Limpopo. And although her officials admit she's known about the problems for some time, they say there was little she could do.
There's a law called Division of Revenue Act called DORA, which simply means that when Parliament votes and say this is the money for the province and this is money for national, you can't take money from national and bail out a province.
Panyaza Lissufi is spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education.
You blaming the wrong person on the issue of textbook and financial woes of Limpopo, because it's not the minister that deals with budget and they have budget-related problems.
But the report mentions specifically the HOD, the CFO, the MEC. All of those people came in 2009 and were really allowed to do as they wished, as indeed they still are.
I'm glad Bongana raising that. Who employs the MECs? Is the minister? No. Where does the MEC accounts to? To the minister? No. We don't have power to fire people in that department. We don't have power or mandate also to remove people in that department. You have to work through the same people who collapse the system.
We requested comment from MEC Dixon Masemola, HOD Morabudi Tamaga, and CFO Martin Mashaba, but received no response. The former HOD, Benny Boshielo, has denied any wrongdoing. Until the forensic and criminal investigations have been concluded, those responsible for the systematic looting of Limpopo province will remain unpunished.
Anybody who really cares, especially about poor people, must invest in making government work, because the poor have no option. You see, where people who earn enough money have a number of options, whether it is healthcare, it is the area of education. You know, you can have an option, but poor people have no option.
Not happy times for President Zuma and the government. The education crisis now overshadowed by the horrific events at Lonmin's Marikana mine in Rustenburg. More than 30 miners dead and dozens injured after clashes with police that began with protests earlier in the week. These visuals don't make for easy viewing. Police Chief Ria Piecha says they opened fire in self-defense.
It is clear there's something serious behind these happenings. And that's why I've taken a decision to establish the commission.
Coming up later in the show, a reunion back at the poolside in Pinetown. Chad the